Welcome to the Wealth Transfer with TC. Today, I'm very excited to share some prophetic words from a man by the name of Greg Mason. And one of the reasons why I'm very excited about sharing this, because these prophecies, they're confirming some of the prophetic words from those that we follow that are accurate today. And this actually might even be the original stock market crash prophecy that lines up with many of the things that people that I know and that you know that have been saying about the stock market. So I'm going to share these prophetic words about the crash of the Dow. And this person is basically saying the same thing as far as God's people getting into the stock market, preparing for this moment. And so that's why it's so exciting, because of the people that we trust are saying the same thing, but this is back from 16, 17 years ago. Now, I'm going to share the two specific videos relating to what he's saying about the stock market. I'm not going to share the video about like McDonald's and Syria. I'm going to share what he said about those things with the way the markets are running right now, and Bitcoin, reaching over that 122,000 mark. You got the Dow that hit new records. There's not much time left to prepare. And it's not just about making money on the way up, but it's about making money on the way down. And that's why I've been sharing, especially with my Patreon and Telegram members and all that, about learning how to short the markets, learning how to put in puts, option puts, and getting into short ETFs at the appropriate time. Now, I don't know if this man realizes or not, because he hasn't put out a prophetic word in a long time, that he's seeing the same thing as many of the other people that we trust, and that it probably was very discouraging for him to have all these prophetic words, not realizing that it was for a further time out. So here I have this YouTube channel, only 35 subscribers, 11 videos, called Prophetic Guy. His name is Greg Mason. And so I'm going to share a couple of these videos that he has, and then go over some of the prophetic words that he said about some of the stocks. And then I'm going to compare those to some of the things that other people have said. So I'm going to go ahead and share the first prophecy. I'm not playing the whole video. I'm sharing the most important part, but the channel itself will be down below in the description. So this guy's name is Greg Mason. He's giving a prophetic word about the economy and the stock market. And I've already did the research. When you look at the date that he gave the prophecies and the details of the prophecies, he's not talking about then.
Hi, this is Greg Mason. Welcome to the Prophetic Path. In this video, I'm going to share with you some dreams and visions that I've had about the economy, the stock market in particular. Most of these dreams and visions came in parts and were spread out over several years, starting around 2000. And currently, it's September of 2008. So in this part of my testimony, it's made up mostly of dreams that reveal a lot about what's going to happen to the stock market and the economy, and some of the major trends that's going to happen over the next 100 years or so. Let me say that I never made any money in the stock market, but I do believe that dominion over the economy and over the earth is part of our spiritual inheritance, and it's authority that needs to be developed like any other gift. It takes time and effort with a whole lot of faith. Now that I've gotten the introduction out of the way, I'm going to talk about the first experience that I've had with having a vision of the Dow Jones Industrial Average. So here's one of the earlier words I had about the stock market. This happened several years ago. I was woke up out of bed by a vision. The vision showed that the Dow Jones fell below 10,000 points. And this was a very intense vision that happened right as I woke out of bed. Actually, it woke me up. So I was fully awake, and I saw it clearly. So I went downstairs, and I turned on the TV to find out that it was true and that it was all over the news. It was one of the biggest falls that ever happened in one day, and that was why it was all over the news for weeks. So here's experience number 2 with it all. After that happened, I started to have a number of dreams that the economy would rebound and that the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones and the NASDAQ would do far greater things than they have ever done before. These dreams happened repeatedly, and although it is several years since then, not a whole lot has happened, in my opinion. But I really believe that the American stock market has a really great future. That doesn't mean that we've hit bottom. I don't know that. But it does mean that we can buy into the dips and prosper into the future. Okay, so here's the third set of experiences with the economy. Now recently, within the last year, on a few occasions, I heard a voice at night as I drifted in and out of sleep, that there was coming a correction, and compared to that correction, the 2002 correction didn't look that bad. Now corrections are normal, but everybody thought that the 2002 correction was really big. So this next correction looks like it's going to make the 2002 correction look pretty insignificant in comparison. So it will probably crush a lot of great stocks into nothing, making it a great time to buy, especially when the market has such a great future. But that's just my opinion based on the several dreams and visions that I've had over the last 8 years or so. Experiences group number 4. Now over the last few months, I've had this recurring dream that people were praising the market and how good it was. A few years ago, I had a dream where interest rates were dropping and the markets were headed for a nice rally. This could be what I was seeing recently in the dreams. Now, I've never gotten an exact date when these things were going to happen, nor have I seen specific index numbers. But my opinion and interpretation, based on what I know so far, is that this really nice rally should occur before this major correction that is to come. How long each season will last, I really have no idea as of now, but I'm looking forward to continuing my journey with God in all of this.
So really quickly before we go to the next video, he said he had an intense vision of the Dow falling below 10,000. Now, when he gave this prophetic word, he said specifically that some of these were between the year 2000 and 2008, right? So he's summarizing all of them together. So around the time that he actually posted this and the years preceding to this, the Dow was around 10,000 already. So what this would mean to me when I hear this is that it wouldn't be intense for the Dow to drop below 10,000 around this time period, but it would be later on, like let's say today's time where the Dow is at 44,000 or where it might go up to 50 or 60,000. He said it was the greatest fall in one day, and it was on the news for weeks. So this is a situation, again, going with the intensity of the vision, and they were talking about it for weeks. That means it's a pretty big deal, and we have not seen that yet. This massive market correction that's coming made the 2002 market correction insignificant. He said that they were praising the markets, interest rates were coming down, and so that's almost like we haven't seen that yet here. What we are seeing right now is people are praising the Trump administration for the stock markets. We haven't seen the interest rates drop yet, so that's where we are headed to right now, is getting rid of Powell and then doing the interest rates and getting them lower. All right, I'm going to go ahead and play the second video, and we're going to get a little bit more detail in this particular prophetic word.
Hello, this is Greg Mason, and I've been working with dreams and visions about the economy for several years now. It's my hope to someday bring God's dominion into the stock market so that charity work and good ministry would one day become self-sustaining forces of good. Right now, I'm taking some different dreams and visions and trying to put them together to get a good idea of where the market bottom is. One way that I'm doing this is by looking at some of the stocks that God has been speaking to me about over the last few years. And I'm taking the lows that I've seen in dreams and visions, and I'm comparing those prices to how the prices were at the last bottom of about 7,400. A long time ago, well, a few years ago, I got a word about Cisco Systems and some of the lows that it would go through. In one dream, I saw it at about $8 a share, and then another dream around $2 a share. The last time I checked on the internet, it was actually around $16 a share. So to me, that obviously indicates that the market will drop way below 7,400. When the market was at 7,400, Cisco's low was only $14 a share. Of course, that's only assuming that the bottom of a stock usually goes hand in hand with the market bottoming out, because they usually move together. And Cisco Systems isn't the only one. There are a few other stocks that God was speaking to me about and how low they would get. And the numbers just don't match up with the last bottom that we just had. They were a good bit lower. So one way of interpreting all of that is that to get a rough idea how far the Dow Jones would have to drop for those stocks to fall into the price range that I had in those dreams. And I try to compare the two. Okay, now over the last month, as of December 2008, I had a dream where I saw the Dow Jones at 7,000. Then shortly after that, I had another dream where someone told me that they saw it at 6,700. At that time, I figured that I was only being given a glimpse into the bottom. So I continually worked on praying for it for the last month or so. Lately, I woke up almost certain that I had a couple of dreams where the Dow Jones was closer to 4,000. But that was a little bit cloudy, and I'm definitely not satisfied with it because it wasn't clear enough for me to be comfortable. Now, a little bit later after that, I had another dream where I was talking to people about the stock market, and it was 1995. When I checked out the Dow Jones Industrial Average in 1995 on the internet, I found out that the Dow Jones was around 4,000 points. So that's definitely something I'm praying about. And it does seem to fit together with the price range that I've seen certain stocks fall into in some of the dreams that I've had. Now, over the last few years, I really believe that based on what I've seen in that time, that we have a nice bottom in the market to come, followed by a really big rally, and then an even deeper bottom. Now, what I'm trying to do is work all of this out by putting the pieces together. And I'm wondering if that 4,000 is going to be this bottom, or is it the future bottom that will only come after the big rally. Right now, it's still too soon to tell, but at least it's encouraging to know that God will prevail in all of this.
So now we have some pricing points where the bottom of the Dow is going to be at. He said first, in December of 2008, he saw it at 7,000, and then he had another dream where in the dream he was told his friend said 6,700, and then he had another prophetic dream where it was just above 4,000, but it wasn't very clear. Then he had another dream about the Dow in 1995, and it was around 4,000 points. So he has seen the Dow between 4,000 and 7,000 in these prophetic dreams. Now, this is a confirmation to other people who have seen the same thing. And keep in mind, these are old prophecies. And we're going to go ahead and go over some prophetic words, but I want to share with you quickly some of the things that he has said concerning these other stocks. He said Cisco stock, he saw it at $8 and $2. Right, that's pretty low considering that Cisco stock is around $47. Sirius XM Holdings, the low 50 cents, and he also saw it over $100. Currently, it's trading around $24. So Siri went through some mergers and also a forward split, combining with the Buffett, however it all went down. But the low of 50 cents, which confirms some of the things that other people have seen as far as stocks being like super, super cheap, and also that it went over $100. Now, It has not gone that high yet. It hasn't even broken, I think, hasn't even broken $28. Now, you saw McDonald's at $4.28. So McDonald's has never been that low since he's given this prophetic word. And it's currently sitting at around $301. So now we're going to look at some of the confirmations. All right, now Christopher Harris saw the Dow or the S&P around 5,600, right? And Bitcoin would be at 44,000 around that time period, right? And with that, he also saw some short ETF prices, UVXY, right? UVXY at $2,700, right? So when I talk about telling you guys to prepare yourself to get into these short ETF stocks, when the Dow begins to fall, you're going to want to already be in position. Now, you don't actually have to buy the stock. You can actually place option calls and then turn around. Actually, when you're ready to sell off, turn around and purchase some puts because the markets are going to recover. Then Maria Conwell saw the Dow go to 5,000. Now, so this lines up with Christopher Harris's prophetic word. So Christopher Harris saw the Dow go from between 20 to 22,000 to 10,000. You also saw it at 17,000, 8 to 10,000, 9,000, and then 6,667. Then you got Maria who sees it at 5,000. And then you have this man named Greg Mason who saw it at 4,000. So that's approximately how low the Dow may go when things seem at their worst. When the stock market is crashing. Remember, the dinar revaluation, Kim Clement said that because of the dinar, the Dow shoots up to 20,000. Now, I'm going to say this, folks. The bottom of the stock market, it doesn't stay there long. You're talking about from minutes to hours where you're going to see these very cheap prices. Right? And I'm not even talking about the super cheap. Now, when it comes to the super cheap, where these things are pennies on the dollar, you're probably talking about seconds to minutes. And then, like when you saw McDonald's at $4.28, well, we have another prophetic word from Tim, who's just been part of the TC community for a long time. He saw McDonald's at 61 cents. And then you have Greg Mason, who saw Siri at 50 cents. So we're going to see a crash to the very, very bottom. And then it's going to start to recover in the dollar amounts, the 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. And then eventually, when the dinar revaluation, it's going to push the Dow back up to 20,000. I think it's going to be like a bounce. So this is why I'm telling you to prepare for this and to learn all these different things about shorting the markets and placing option calls and puts. You know, learning things about in the crypto markets, doing basically the same thing, so that you can take advantage of the stock market, not just on its way up, but also on the way down. And I'm going to get into another video about this because I have a specific plan that I put together that I believe God has given for me and how I can benefit from all of this, right? I'll be able to show you guys how I'm going to make my moves. Now, the main thing is, where is the Dow going to be at the top, right? When the Dow reaches a certain point. So when I was originally putting together my plan, I'm estimating that the Dow will go between 50 and 60,000. But when it comes to the Dow high, and I'm going to share that in another video, I got confirmation on one, and I'm waiting on another one. And we're going to see how high this Dow is going to go before we see the crash. And that's why when things seem at their worst, could you imagine if the Dow was at, say, 50,000 or 55,000 and it crashes below 10,000? The world is going to be freaking out. You're not, because you're in position. And so how do we prepare for these low prices? Obviously, with the stock market, you can't put low buy limit orders for $4.28 on McDonald's, right? But you can place puts. You don't have to put the put that low, and I wouldn't recommend you doing that. And if you put it that low, you risk not being able to cash it out. That's one of the things I go over in my, what I call the Dow plan, right? The stock market Dow plan. And it's not just about the Dow. I think the Dow and how people have been shown the Dow as opposed to the NASDAQ is because it makes it simple for everyone. Now, there's a lot of stocks in the NASDAQ that I want to get my hands on, but we can't place low buy limit orders that low. And I think, though, when the markets begin to slide and you get closer to that point, maybe say at 10,000, we will be able to put in low buy limit orders that low. Or there'll be other methods that you'll be able to use the low buy limit orders for the stock market, and I'll get into that in another video. Hopefully, things will not move too fast right now. And this is where, like I said, this is where the short ETFs come in. This is where the option calls and puts come in. So I have some very important videos coming out very soon. Remember God's algorithm, where you saw the DXY glitch to zero. That's the dollar. There's just many more confirmations about this market crash. And so just please, people, put yourself into position. Because the more that you learn about the stock market, the more you learn about trading, the more that you're going to be able to earn and have when all this is said and done. Because I'm looking at something bigger. There are people that have messaged me and saying, you know what, I'm not doing all that stock stuff. I'm just waiting on the dinar. And that's fine. But you're going to be waiting a lot longer than other people. People are going to be able to go out and buy things. People are going to be able to buy all the dinar that's out there. People will be able to do a lot more during this time period than what you will if that's all you're waiting on. So you guys tell me what you think about these prophecies, its connections to the people that are seeing these dreams and visions now. Tell me what you think about Greg Mason and if he's seeing what we're expecting. I think this is very powerful. I'm very excited, and just I thank God for showing this to me. So look out for the next video concerning the Dow. I don't know how many other videos will be in between that, but I have a Dow plan that I'm going to share with you, and I'll be sharing it with my group first and then eventually be made public. But at least you get an idea, according to the prophetic word, what's going to take place. And it's not just the prophetic word, folks. There are real financial advisors. There are real chart readers. They know how to trade all of the markets, and they're saying something similar. So this is not just prophetic. So I just want to make sure that I put that out there. That's all that I have for this today. God bless.